All right.
Okay, well, hello everyone, I'm Eliott from That's a Free Action.
And I'm Mark at Gigabytes.
And so, okay, yeah, and so we're here to talk about Princes of the Apocalypse, a very exciting book. Today we're canceling the apocalypse.
So, yeah, oh god. Well, if you can. There's a lot of work to be done in this book.
Yeah, a very large book with a lot of different materials. The beginning of this tells about how this can go on for months in terms of sessions, and from what Mark and I have reviewed, there's a lot of material in this book.
I mean, I think it lets you start at level 3. It's like what they recommend is level 3, and it goes to level 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's just say you're not going to get through those 12 levels in a week.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different varieties. So I guess to start off with the base, if Mark, you want to go over the big antagonists of this setting.
So in this book there are the 4 cults, and these 4 cults are your typical elements, like Planeteers minus the heart.
Yeah, right.
Well, you have the Black Earth, which are your cultists that rely on strength and resilience to really get through it, and then you have your the crushing wave, which are I mean, at this point you basically have cultists that want to destroy everything, but the crushing wave rely on the force and fluidity of water is what they respect, and they're just going to really adapt to any situation just like water does. The example they gave was that water crashing through a levee, it finds the weakest point and then just floods through that. And then you have the eternal fire, which is just people that want to see the world burn. Yeah, I mean, that's literally it. They want, like, droughts, they want forest fires, they want volcanoes. And really, it's just they want a world that's always being consumed by fire. Really not that sustainable, though.
Think about, like, Team Magma, but, like, worse.
Yeah. I'm thinking, like, I was thinking, like, Fallout.
Oh, yeah, Fallout.
Yeah, just... and then there's the Howling Hatred, which is a favorite of Eliott's, and they're less of the destruction for destruction's sake, and they're more, you got to have a reason for it, but they'll definitely come to that reason pretty quickly. It just doesn't really matter what it is. As me and Elliott joked about, it's like, hey, did that baby flip me off? It's like, no, that baby's incapable of flipping you off. It's like, yeah, the baby
go get him.
Yeah, totally flipped me off.
Yeah, so all of the cults have elements tied to their personality, right? Like, you get to play a lot with it since there's so many materials involved with just how variety their types of troops are.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about how there's like balloon packs for guys who are
Howling Hatred.
Yeah, for the Howling Hatred. And so you got these dudes that are flying in on balloons and they're gonna come get you. Whereas like you've got the Black Earth, which have
tanky.
Yeah, they're tanky and they've got like earth sharks essentially.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought were awesome.
Just burrowing sharks.
Yeah, they got burrow sharks, and obviously you've got a lot of variety of types of enemy that you're gonna run into, and you have to handle each individual one, which is why this campaign can go on for so long.
Yeah, they have various hooks. You can go out and try to rescue people. You can go out and just immediately try to deal with the elemental cults, but they give you so many, like, I started going through the pages and I was like, all right, I'm done with all these hooks, and then you flip the page, it's like 2 more pages of hooks of things you can just start off doing in this campaign.
What I think the book does really well is it makes it lend itself to so many different origins where you can play.
Yeah.
So I know we were talking about right before was that Dark Sun is an option, Greyhawk's an option, Homebrews are options. Like there's so many places for you to consider where you would even start that this book becomes applicable to basically anybody who wants to fight an elemental enemy.
Yeah. I mean, so this is set around the city of Neverwinter, just like before the Faerun.
Yeah.
But the thing with it is, like Ellie said, it's applicable to other settings, and they actually give you the information you need to basically change the name of the factions, but still have the basic goal in mind. So like certain guilds might be under a different name, but the neat thing you can do about this though is that you take the elemental powers from this and just apply it to anywhere you go, because in the end typically elemental powers don't change from world to world. It's always going to be the same goals, like fire wants everything burned, earth wants everything buried, water wants everything flooded, and
and especially when you think about D&D in terms of its world crafting essentially, of how the realms are so close to each other, depending on how you want to view the world, all these elements are coming on all sides, and they are trying to break in. Which is ultimately what the antagonists are trying to do, is they're trying to bring their big baddie to the world.
Yeah. But I mean, they give you the tools to do this. But for those of you that don't know, Dark Sun campaign is really set on a desert planet where the gods and the primordial forces had a giant war. And typically you always expect the gods to win, but in this case they didn't. So the gods either got murdered or banished. And now you have to deal with what's left.
Yeah. So for that plug, especially because Dark Sun is a campaign that you and I specifically like, is that it's already pretty bleak.
Yep.
And so let's make it worse and add evil cultists to the thing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing though. So while you have the primordial elementals winning, they really don't care about mortals at all. So they went about and just did whatever they want, leaving mortals to do their day-to-day business, which is also a bad thing because without any guidance, you're left with like sorcerer kings. Sorcerer kings basically absorbed life around them to cast magic. They did a lot of it, and they turned this world into a desert. And there you are, a bleak elemental cultist all over the desert. Good luck with that. But anyway,
and you have other options like that are in the book that are like Eberron, which is you all of a sudden end up in this like techie cult-driven world, and you apply all this tech that they have involved to the game. So they have every faction has their own little contraption. They have essentially like elemental grenades, and you can change those depending on the setting.
Yeah.
In a fantasy setting, they're just like balls of energy, whereas if you are in a more of a tech version, you can have like
teamwork.
A more mechanical version of that. They have the ones that I liked is the Crushing Wave has little tanks that hold water elementals in them, and so they can use those for a number of different things. I even when I was running this campaign, I had a player actually get one, and just was like, all right, well, run.
Just let it go.
Yeah, so you have a lot of room to play. This book, whereas the other books I was saying that a critique that I had for them was that there was just not a lot of setting-specific magic items. There's tons of them in this one.
Yeah, they definitely give you, and spells as well.
And lots of spells, which obviously they're all tied to different elements.
Exactly.
A big thing that they had included in this book as extra content is that there are an additional race. They're the Gensai. I forget how, but basically they're elemental people.
Yeah. Of the 4 elements. Yeah.
Yeah, and you choose your element, you choose your style, and you get bonuses depending. And then you have an extended spell list that have all elemental-based spells.
Yeah.
So whereas before, if you got tired of some of the spells, you're playing a warlock or a wizard, and you're taking the same spells at the same levels all the time.
Yeah.
Now you have an expanded spell list, which is really fun, where you have like Ice Storm or whatever bigger version of it.
But I assume as a water-focused Gensai, you're not going to be casting Fireball like a normal wizard would have access to.
I mean, I don't think the rules stop you, but I think that you have an affinity towards. Yeah,
so there's no reason to take it.
Yeah, so especially if you're trying to play a character that's trying to be, a part of their element, you have just this extra plug involved, and the race fits in every single setting. Especially if you were going to take it into like Eberron or Dark Sun, you'd have more reason to be invested in this conflict that's happening.
Definitely. But sticking to the actual world that they lay out for you in this book, if you're going to follow the campaign, the first setting they really try to drop you off into is the valley.
The Desarius.
Yeah, Desarian Valley. Desarian, and like I mean, it's really what you would. I really consider the American Midwest, where it's just farming. It's very sparse populations, usually like caravan towns. But the real thing is like people like it there because they don't have to deal with like a lot of the monster and orc horde attacks, things like that. So it's just people going about their day-to-day life. Just farming, and you might think, wow, that's a terrible place to have a campaign. Yes, let's totally go there and let's have an adventure.
A quiet, peaceful town all of a sudden has something bad happen.
Yeah, that can. While nature is actually receding in a lot of areas, so you have many old ruins opening up, and these can range from like the very first civilizations in Faerun, which were the Elvish kings, to like one of the things they mentioned was the Dwarven Shield Empire, which is something they actually base a lot on.
You would pay attention to dwarves?
Of course, I love dwarves. I recently just had my dwarf rogue die yesterday. It was very sad moment.
Yeah, it's kind of underwhelming.
But, note to self: don't face dragons anymore as a level 1.
Yeah, right. But with all the it's kind of interesting how you can translate like the Horde of the Dragon Queen into Rise of Tiamat, and then jump right into this campaign and have you start to learn and know all of these factions pretty well.
Yeah,
I would say. You know, if you especially the ones that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Like if you were interested in the Emerald Enclave, well, if you were interacting with them in your first campaign with the Horde of the Dragon Queen, you've now had a lot of sessions where you've dealt with these factions.
Yeah.
So this one, I feel, is where you would want to live in for a lot longer.
Definitely, and I would definitely like to see it if I went through all those campaigns. Perhaps a cultist who started, worshiping the Red Dragons, and so you defeated that cult. Tiamat never made it, and all of a sudden now he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go to the Fire guys, and I'm gonna go to the Eternal Flame, and then you go and you defeat the Eternal Flame, and the guy's like, I just can't get a decent day's work in without these guys ruining everything.
Why is being a cultist so hard these days?
I know. Every cult I join gets murdered.
Yeah. So especially when you're jumping from a theme of dragons, and all these books have a pretty solid theme. So when you're moving into elementals, you get to experience something different, something not normal. You're not dealing with zombies anymore.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with dragons. You're dealing with kind of almost unknown territory for some people, because you might not have fought against specifically elementals before. So you end up with a lot of different mechanics that you don't necessarily know, like elemental resistance is very common in this.
Oh yeah, that's very true. So you're not going to go fireball on a guy who's half fire.
Yeah, you're not. You start fighting, like, let's say the Myrmidons, which are the special versions of the elemental golems. So instead of just having like air elementals, you have air Myrmidons, which are very powerful and have additional abilities
and look freaking amazing.
Yeah, all of the special monsters in this book look and feel really powerful. So when you have, like, especially the special ones, so like you've got your cultists, you got your regular dudes, then you've got the guys that are kind of becoming like mixture of the two, and then you got the guy who's like full boat into being a cultist that's of his element.
Right. Or he signed that contract in blood or whatever it takes. He's like, I'm in. Sign me up.
So you get to experience a lot of these fun pieces. So Mark, did you have any other thoughts on the book? What did you think that it might have lacked?
So it just seems that, I mean, it has all the hooks, and you can always find a different different place to really go to once you've completed something. But I feel like it's okay. What's the best way to put it? Is that once you defeat a cult, because they have cults that hate each other. Like this isn't just a happy-go-lucky family of cults.
You mean that cults don't like each other?
Yeah. So, but like once you defeated one, it seems it'll make one go stronger, and I guess eventually either they get too weak or too strong.
I mean, you have some endgame issues, and I feel like that's it. All endgame issues are always very, there's a lot of options in how you handle it. So you always want it to be challenging. And on paper, you look at, we looked at some of the end game guys that are really big and powerful.
Yeah.
And at like level 9, they seem terrifying and really challenging. But if you're 4 players all at level 15, and you go straight at this guy in a fair fight, it gets to be a little bit one-sided.
It's still going to be a challenge, I assume, with I guess dealing with
you've got
good roles from the DM and things like that.
And you've got scenarios that come up, and so it all depends on how everything unfolds, right?
Yeah. Did you take the necessary precautions? Did this happen when you're fighting? Did you prevent reinforcements from showing up?
Yeah.
Those kind of things.
How did you tackle this issue?
Yeah.
And so that it becomes to be a part of the game, and that is probably the big critique, is that it's hard to get really some direction of which cult you should go to first, because it's kind of like whichever one you want.
Yeah. I mean, do they have a timeline for these? Like, if you go after the fire cult, will maybe the water cult succeed in what they're doing?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I mean, I use this as a homebrew, and so I had that happen on my own, so I don't know whether they outlined that specifically in the book.
Yeah.
But when I homebrewed it, which this book was really helpful in homebrewing, it gives you tons of material, and they give you great dungeons. But when the bigger conflicts come up, you have to play around with it a little bit. It's kind of the same with the Rise of Tiamat, is that once you've gotten used to it, especially as a GM, you've gotten handles on topics of combat and how to handle this.
And Rise of Tiamat did give you that timeline.
Yeah, it gave you a timeline, and